Greetings everybody, I trust you're good. Let's have a look at Nasdaq 100, and as you guys can see we are on the daily chart, and in regards to the daily chart you guys can see that we have two interesting patterns. Number one, we have this W structure over here which has a neckline at that level, and number two, we have an opposing structure in the form of an M formation at this point, and we have a bit of a dilemma, guys. Why do I say so? That is because we have two opposing structures rather, that are sharing a neckline, right? This means that buying or selling at this point in time is a bit risky, and that is because, as I've said guys, we have two opposing structure. We have the W structure and we have that M structure, and they both have necklines in more or less the same location. So what this means is that in regards to this level over here, anything can happen. The market may push further up or push further down because of these two structures. So it's going to be quite interesting how things unravel over the next couple of weeks in as far as Nasdaq 100 is concerned, right? So what else do we see in regards to this chart, which is the daily chart of Nasdaq 100? At this point I don't see much. I'm just going to head down to the H4 chart. Let's have a look. What do we see, right? So in regards to the H4 chart, guys, we can see that over the last couple of weeks the market has been moving rather sideways, right? As you guys can see. To add to that, just remember that as much as I'm saying that the market has been moving rather sideways, we also have this huge M structure which has a neckline at that point, guys. And just to zoom in, another thing that is also very much interesting is that we have this candlestick over here. It is a liquidity candlestick, and it tells us that where it ends at the bottom, there's a lot of liquidity sitting there, and that at some point or another the market needs to come down to grab all of this liquidity at this level over here, right? So that is it, guys, and as far as the H4 chart goes. But what else do we see, guys? What else do we see in regards to the H4 chart that we should be paying attention to? So guys, remember I spoke about how we have this huge M structure over here. To add to that, can you guys see that we had also had another smaller M structure over here which has a neckline at this point over here? And by now, guys, you know that whenever it comes to M structures, ideally we want to see the market pushing to the bottom side of that neckline, heading back to that neckline to test it, and at that neckline is where we normally look for potential selling opportunities, right? So we saw the market at this point breaking that neckline, going to the neckline again to test it, and then pushing further down. You guys see that, right? So another thing that may happen actually in the future is that we might see the market push further up to this level to just retest this neckline, right? Or as I said, guys, we might potentially also see the market push further down to this level to grab that liquidity. Just keep that in the back of your mind, right? So in as much as we have this M structure, just also bear in mind that we have what seems to be an inverted head and shoulders pattern at this point, which has a neckline more or less at that level. Can you guys see that? So what may potentially also happen is that we might see price from where it is start to push further up, and that is because, as I've said, guys, we have this pattern over here which is an inverted head and shoulders pattern, right? So what I'm doing at this point in time is just showing you some of the possible outcomes that we may encounter in as far as Nasdaq 100 is concerned, right? Another thing that I see in regards to this particular chart is the fact that we have this candlestick over here. And this candlestick is a bullish candlestick with a relatively small body and a long upper wick, right? And what this tells us is that we also have a lot of liquidity sitting at this level over here, which needs to be triggered by the market. And as I've said, guys, liquidity represents money that needs to be triggered by the market, right? And can you also see that where this candlestick ends, we also have the neckline, as I've said, guys, of this M structure over here. So it would make sense actually in the future for the market to head back to this level, not only to grab that liquidity but also to just retest this level over here, because it is a very strong level of resistance, right? Just to continue, guys, in as far as buying or selling opportunities go at this point, I don't see any, but let me just head down to the H chart to see what's actually happening at that point, right? I'm just going to zoom in again, right? And we can see that in regards to the H1 chart that we also had another M structure over here, right? And because we have that M structure, I would love to see the market actually push further down to this level, and that would be the completion of this M structure, because it started over here and I would love to see it end over here. And to add to that, remember that we also have this level over here, which is the level at which we expect the market to trigger all of that liquidity, right? So in as far, or rather, as much as I say that, just bear in mind also, let me just zoom out a bit, right? Just bear in mind also, just to recap guys, that on the higher time frames, or rather on the daily chart, I spoke about how we have these two opposing structures over here. Number one, we have this W structure, and number two, we have this M structure, and they are sharing a neckline more or less. So as I've said, what may actually happen is at this point the market may push further up or further down, right? But it's a bit risky in as far as buying or selling goes, in as far as Nasdaq 100 is concerned. So that is it guys, in as far as my analysis goes. And if you like the content, just remember to subscribe and like the actual video, and peace out.